The city buzzed with whispers of Marcus Carter's legendary takeover. The once arrogant restaurant owner, Vincent Hale, had lost everything overnight, and Marcus now sat at the helm of an expanding empire. But as Marcus celebrated his latest success, he knew one truth about power. It always attracts enemies. It started subtly, a minor lawsuit, an unexpected delay in permits for his new projects, a rumor that Marcus's businesses were built on shady dealings. At first, he ignored them, chalking them up to the usual hurdles of success. But then, a more sinister threat emerged. One evening, as Marcus sat in his penthouse overlooking the city, his phone buzzed with an anonymous message. "You took what wasn't yours. Now we take everything from you." A lesser man might have panicked. Marcus smirked. He had spent years in boardrooms facing ruthless sharks. He knew how to play the game. But this wasn't just business, this was personal. The next morning, Marcus arrived at his newest restaurant location, only to find it vandalized. Windows shattered, walls defaced with the words, "Not welcome here." The media pounced, eager to spin a narrative that would tear down the very empire Marcus had built. He could already see the headlines. Black business mogul faces mysterious retaliation. But Marcus wasn't just any businessman. He had resources, connections, and most importantly, he had patience. While the world speculated, Marcus moved in silence. He called in his most trusted ally, Travis Rourke, a former federal agent turned private investigator. Travis owed Marcus a favor, and now was the time to cash in. "Find out who's behind this," Marcus said, his voice calm but laced with authority. Travis nodded. Already on it. Days later, Travis returned with intel that made Marcus's blood boil. The attacks weren't random. They were orchestrated by a secret syndicate of elite businessmen. Men who saw Marcus as an outsider disrupting their carefully controlled economy. And at the center of it all, Vincent Hale. The man Marcus had ruined was back for revenge. But if Vincent thought he could outplay Marcus, he had made a grave mistake. Marcus didn't react immediately. He let the world think he was struggling, watching as the syndicate grew bolder. More attacks followed, attempts to freeze his accounts, spread false stories, and sabotage his businesses. They wanted to break him. Instead, Marcus set the stage for the ultimate counterattack. Under the cover of night, he met with his legal team, his security specialists, and his media contacts. If the syndicate wanted war, he would give them one they would never forget. And when Marcus made his next move, the city would tremble. The city never truly sleeps. In the wake of Marcus's takeover, his enemies regrouped in the shadows, plotting their next move. Unbeknownst to him, a storm was brewing, one that threatened to undo everything he had built. The whispers of betrayal echoed through the underworld, and Marcus knew that his reign would not go unchallenged. At the heart of it all was Vincent Moretti, a name Marcus had buried long ago. Moretti was a ghost from his past, a ruthless kingpin who once controlled the city's darkest corners. After Marcus dismantled his empire, Moretti vanished, but he was never truly gone. Now he had resurfaced, more dangerous than ever, with one goal in mind: revenge. It started subtly. Key figures in Marcus's operation began disappearing. First, his trusted informant, then one of his lead enforcers. The pattern was clear. Someone was dismantling his organization from within. Marcus wasn't a man to wait for an attack. He struck first. "Find me Moretti," Marcus ordered, his voice like steel. "I want to know his every move." His network went to work, but Moretti was careful. He played the long game, using proxies, manipulating rival factions, turning Marcus's own allies against him. The city was shifting, and the balance of power teetered on the edge. Then came the message. A blood-stained envelope left on Marcus's desk. Inside, A single photograph. His brother, bound and beaten, with a time and place scrawled beneath it. A challenge. A trap. Marcus clenched his fists. Moretti had made a grave mistake. As the clock ticked down to the meeting, Marcus prepared for war. He wouldn't walk into the trap blind. He studied the location, planned every angle. His men were positioned, snipers in the shadows, escape routes mapped. Moretti wanted a show? Marcus would give him one. The abandoned warehouse was eerily silent when Marcus arrived. His footsteps echoed against the concrete. Then, a voice cut through the darkness. "Marcus, it's been a long time." Moretti stepped forward, smug, confident. Behind him, his men held Marcus's brother at gunpoint. The sight sent a slow-burning rage through Marcus's veins, but he kept his expression unreadable. "Let him go," Marcus said evenly. Moretti chuckled. "You took everything from me. My empire, my power. Did you think I'd just disappear?" "I should have made sure you did," Marcus replied coldly. Moretti smirked. "Too late for regrets. Here's the deal: you walk away from all of this. Your businesses, your influence, your power. Or your brother dies." Marcus looked at his brother. Eyes swollen, bruises covering his face. He needed to end this now. "You think I came here alone?" Marcus said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. Moretti's confidence wavered. Then all hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted as Marcus's men emerged from the shadows. Chaos unfolded in an instant. Bullets flying, bodies dropping. Marcus moved like a ghost, precise and lethal. He took out Moretti's guards one by one, carving a path toward his brother. Moretti, realizing the tide had turned, grabbed a gun and pressed it against Marcus's brother's head. One more step, and he dies. Marcus didn't hesitate. A single shot rang out. Moretti's gun hand exploded in a spray of blood. He screamed, dropping the weapon. Marcus closed the distance in seconds, landing a brutal punch that sent Moretti sprawling. The battle was over. Moretti's men lay defeated, the warehouse filled with the scent of smoke and blood. Marcus crouched beside Moretti, gripping his collar. "This is what happens when you come after my family." Moretti gasped for breath, his arrogance replaced with fear. "Kill me, then." Marcus stared into his eyes. "No, death is too easy." He signaled his men. "Take him. Make sure he disappears, for good." As Moretti was dragged away, Marcus turned to his brother, untying his restraints. "It's over." But as they stepped outside, a single gunshot echoed in the night. Marcus's world turned red. Marcus knew this was the final showdown. The stakes had never been higher, and his enemies were closing in. With everything he had built hanging in the balance, he had one last move to make. One that would either secure his legacy or destroy him completely. The night was thick with tension as Marcus arrived at the abandoned warehouse. He had arranged this meeting himself, ensuring that every key player in this twisted game was present. Across from him stood Donovan, the corrupt tycoon who had orchestrated Marcus's downfall, flanked by his enforcers. Beside them was Detective Alvarez, the crooked cop who had turned a blind eye to the truth for far too long. "This ends tonight," Marcus said, his voice calm but commanding. Donovan chuckled, taking a step forward. "You don't have any more moves, Carter. I own this city. You're just another name on my list of people I've crushed." But Marcus only smiled. "That's where you're wrong. See, I've been playing a different game all along." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, pressing a button. Suddenly, the warehouse was flooded with flashing red and blue lights. A swarm of FBI agents stormed in, weapons drawn. "Everyone, hands where I can see them," one of the agents shouted. Panic spread through Donovan's men. Detective Alvarez tried to slip away, but he was quickly subdued. Donovan, realizing he had been outmaneuvered, clenched his fists. "You set me up." Marcus nodded. "Oh, I didn't just set you up. I exposed everything. Wire transfers, offshore accounts, backdoor deals with dirty politicians. It's all with the feds now. You're finished." Donovan lunged at Marcus in rage, but before he could make contact, 2 agents restrained him. His face twisted in fury as they cuffed him. "You think this is over? You think you've won?" Marcus stepped closer, his voice deadly calm. "This isn't about winning, Donovan. This is about justice. And justice always catches up." As Donovan was dragged away, Marcus turned his attention to Detective Alvarez. The once arrogant officer now looked pale and desperate. "Marcus, we can make a deal." Marcus shook his head. "You made your choices. Now you'll answer for them." With Donovan's empire crumbling and his enemies taken down one by one, Marcus finally felt the weight of the war lifting. He had fought for everything. His name, his business, his people, and now he had reclaimed it all. Days later, the city was still buzzing with the aftermath. News outlets ran stories on the massive takedown, and Marcus's name was cleared. But as he stood in his office, looking over the skyline, he knew this wasn't the end. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. His closest ally, Jordan, stepped inside. "It's done. But there's still something you should see." Jordan handed him a folder, and as Marcus flipped through it, his jaw tightened. There were more names, more corruption, more enemies lurking in the shadows. Marcus exhaled slowly. He had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with one last message: justice never sleeps.